Hi, I am Zilla Grimm, host number 1, followed by
Elder Tincher,
host number 2, and the man of the dark fire.
And JJ Darkfire.
And today's topic is online multiplayer killing storytelling single player video games. And first off, I want to pass it on to Mr. Darkfire. Let's hear your opinion on this.
Okay, to answer your question, no. Online multiplayer and the online community for games that are out now are not killing the storytelling in games. It really all depends on the developer, what game you're going for, and what do you want out of games. So, for example, you have Borderlands. That is an online game. You can do online cooperative and play through the whole game, and you still get a decent storytelling from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. So, people that like to play online games such as Overwatch, Paladins, PUBG, Fortnite, Smite, Battle of the Gods, you name it. There's a ton of them out there.
Wait, Dragon Ball has a Battle of the Gods multiplayer online game?
They did have an online game back in 2010.
They are coming up with the Dragon Ball Heroes for the Switch next year.
Yeah, but that's for the Japanese.
It's coming out for America too.
To Europe too.
It's coming to. We're not in Europe.
Not in Europe. It's going to Europe. It's in Japan.
But here's the best thing about the Switch: it's region free.
And America is also gonna get a copy.
Yeah,
but to go
I don't want to interrupt you.
But to go back to what I was saying, it really all boils down to what you want. How do you want your gaming experience to be? If you're one of those that likes playing with a lot of people, creating a party, playing a massive shooter game with objectives that you have to fulfill, getting your rank up, proving your worth, showing the world that you got the stones and you're going to be in the top. Like, for example, I got some friends in my online community where I play Paladins, because I play Paladins a lot. And some of these guys, they went from bronze all the way to diamond. That's the top 16%. And I know a guy that I play with, and he is the number 5 in the world Terminus player. And I have another buddy who is
give him some shout-outs so you can get some recognized,
14 in the world. Well, I don't think that they go on YouTube like that, but...
Well, they don't have to, but people probably know them, you know?
Drew Tang, he's number 5 Terminus in the world, and Super Keegs, number 14 Grok in the world, which is very good. So they're very good players. And they love storytellings, but they also love playing online with other people. So, in a nutshell, just because we have a massive online community, it doesn't mean that storytellings in games are getting ruined. It all depends on what you pick, what you spend your money on, and what do you want out of it.
It also depends on the story itself. Like, if you're not into it, of course you're going to go right into the multiplayer aspect.
Okay, now can I give my side of this story?
Yeah, no.
Okay. I believe it is. 1. And I got prime examples of how online multiplayer is killing the main focus of gaming. 1. Look at the Halo franchise. 1, 2, 3. Great story, right? Great. You had your normal online multiplayer, right? But you had a great killer ass story where it take you almost for a good amount of hours just to complete the single player campaign. And then you get to Halo 4, Halo 5. You get a half hour of story mode gameplay, and then it's all focused online.
Actually, the story in Halo 4 was longer than that.
And it took me a half hour to beat the story.
And it was a somewhat decent story. It wasn't better than Halo 3's story, but it was still a decent story.
But there's right there an example.
Was still good. It was short. Man, I'd put maybe 20 hours worth of story. And Halo 5's online.
But
It's not that
it's
great.
the point of you had the first 3 games. You could play for months in single player before you can actually beat the story. To where it's only a couple hours now. Here's another franchise that falls to that same issue. Call of Duty. All the original Call of Duty games. Shush up for a second, I'm speaking. The original Call of Duty games up until Modern Warfare 2. Their stories kept you in the game. You had your almost side multiplayer shit. It was fun. Modern Warfare 3 comes out. Again, short ass story. More focusing on fucking online. Now here's the kicker. Black Ops 4. No story, all multiplayer. Now Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was all focused on multiplayer. If you look at it nowadays, all the gaming companies, all they care about is, okay, microtransactions this, microtransactions this. It's all online multiplayer. Fuck the story. The quicker we can get these games out, the more money we can make. Who cares what the product's like nowadays? God of War was the most recent fucking game, story-wise, that did not care about did not care about online multiplayer. Focused derivatively on the story, and it outbeat all your multiplayer games that were for online.
Not for nothing, but Activision and Call of Duty was already going on a decline. All right. Since the previous Call of Duty games, the story has gone down, 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 and down.
So the
plot
quality for you is not enough?
less interesting with the story. And over a time span, the creators of Call of Duty, Activision, focus more and more on online gaming and the online community. Yeah, you are right when it came to Call of Duty because the developers decided to work less and improve the story quality of the game and just took the focus straight into the online community. Since there was all those people that buy Call of Duty, their primary focus was online.
So what's the excuse for Halo?
So the developers decided to change their focus. And they gave the game multiple online options of what you could do and play. Thing for Halo, well, while the story was good for Halos 1 through 3, and Halo 4 was decent, Halo 4's online was great. It was better than the previous ones. The story was still good, like I said before. Halo 5 now, the story was okay, but not better than 3. But the online crapped for Halo 5. It was pure crap in my opinion. I don't even touch it. I don't even play it. Really. So yes, I'm agreeing with you when it comes to certain titles that the story-driven aspect of what it once was is gone.
I mean, what happened to the good old days of, me and you? You come over to my place, I go over to your place, I bring my controller. It wasn't much more fun back then. Landlining co-op games, fighting games, all this shit. And instead of trying to say, okay, this guy is across the country, probably doesn't understand a fucking word I'm saying, but I'm going to challenge him anyway. And he whoops your ass.
Oh, but it's still good, though. Like, the whole landline thing and co-oping, like, face-to-face, you can still do that. That's still fun. Like, I still like to do it from time to time.
And I'll give you another franchise that has suffered.
But I do have to say something about your God of War. Not the new one, because I personally didn't have the experience to sit through the story, but I've heard good things about that story. And I'm eager to try it for myself one of these days. But the God of War 3 storyline, it was decent, but it lacked in hours. You could beat the game in 8 hours tops.
And
That's very short story quality.
But it was more focused on the story instead of worrying about online, which is what killed Ascension. God of War Ascension. Short story. You could beat the story. 4 hours. And all they did was focus on the online play, which killed the franchise. Which went back and started from scratch again. And another company that is suffering from it. The WWE games.
I didn't think that series had a story to begin with, honestly.
It does. But again, story. All they do is focus on microtransactions, like every other online multiplayer games do. Right? Their story shit. Their creation and shit went down the drain for creating your own characters, your own story, all that. All went downhill because, again, everybody is so focused on this online multiplayer bullshit.
Okay, but just because a company is driven by online multiplayer...
That is every company out there.
Doesn't mean that the story quality of what they're trying to produce will be bad. It's all in how they do it. Like, there's numerous online multiplayer games that have great story quality and have a decent online following. Just because a company focuses on the multiplayer aspect doesn't mean that the story is going to be faulty.
All right, but if you're going to make only an online multiplayer game like Call of Duty Black Ops, it's not worth the $60 fucking for that game.
No, I would honestly I wouldn't play $60 for the Black Ops game, but then that's just me because I over the years kind of strayed away from the platform.
I'm using it as an example. Mm-hmm. Like Fortnite. I hate to say it, Sony did it right with Fortnite. Okay, it's an online MMORP or you know what I mean.
You got it.
Right? Free to download for play. But you have microtransactions to increase your characters. That is how it's done right.
Yeah, that's also the same for Paladins. That's the same for Overwatch. That's the same for Smite, Battle of the Gods. That's the same for... Actually, there's numerous games that have that same quality.
But you know what I'm saying? If you're only paying for only the online multiplayer portion, it's not worth the fucking price they're asking for. Especially seeing you still gotta pay for everything in that game. Throughout the game.
Well, true. If it comes to that, and I guess we're going back to Call of Duty, for example.
I know, but that's like a default thing because that's really a big game.
Yeah, you spend $60 to get the full game. You
don't even get the full fucking game.
You get less than acceptable story content, and then just purely multiplayer-driven content with microtransactions. Yes, some of those DLC microtransactions that you get for the game, yeah, they could be a little steep. Should it be cheaper in the long run since we did spend $60 for the game and we want to have the most for our buck? Sure. But if it's new stuff that they're releasing, then do we still have a right to complain about spending $60 for the game when we see something else later down the line come out? And we want to get it because it looks so awesome and you want to experience it for yourself. Perfect example would be Xenoverse 2. At Xenoverse, how many times did we go through microtransactions for the DLCs because we wanted to keep going with the story?
But because you're getting more story to
and
the game.
More characters. Exactly.
Yes, but it's not just focused on multiplayer online.
Can I interject here?
Go ahead,
okay,
Mr. Kebs.
Okay, because I've been listening to your arguments, and while valid, both of you brothers, I have to say that while I can totally understand while you both have your own points about everything from price range to them focusing online, we also have to remember that these days, while it's so focused online is because of things like rank what kind of things you can get to beef up your character or characters, how many different stages there are for DLC. Yes, we're not getting a full game anymore. But that's how they hook you, because now they know that you're going to pay for the DLC, whether it's crappy or not. You tell them that a new DLC for say Dragon Ball FighterZ is coming out. Most people, especially in the Dragon Ball community, especially how popular it is in esports, and that's another thing we didn't really talk about. Esports has become more and more of a thing. Now, recently, it had come out, and I know that we wanted to stay away from. I know I wanted to stay away from a lot of Dragon Ball content, but at the same time, Dragon Ball FighterZ, at least up until just a few days ago, was the top game in esports. Recently, they took it down. Don't know why. I don't know, but it was the top played game in esports when it came to fighting games. The top, right? And it's still being worked on. Same thing with Xenoverse, especially with the new movie coming out. New content forever, it's still going. And I've known people that have either sold their games, their copies, or they have no interest in it anymore because they feel like that is all they've got out of it, right? Also, based on time, not everybody, and I'm including myself, one that doesn't really play as many games as he used to, but is trying to get on it. Not everybody has the time to bulldoze through an entire game, right? We sometimes have other things occupying our time. Like, for example, both of you are fathers, but you have found ways to go through to get your gaming fix. Now, you've told me time and time again that you have lost your interest in gaming, Zilla. Recently, it started coming back. That you can probably thank your wife for. Right?
Yeah.
So
because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gotten introduced to some of these cool ass games.
Right.
Like here, I'll give a name. Sorry, man. Name a few for it. Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Good mind fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't rely on multiplayer to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Until Dawn. Friday the 13th recently, I would not purchase it because it didn't have a story mode to it. Now it has a story. Now I'm enjoying the game.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of the games that we still enjoy playing.
My Resident Evil series. Mm-hmm. Granted, there's another franchise I went to ship for multiplayer.
But you still play it.
No,
every time.
Resident Evil didn't go to shit because of the multiplayer aspect. It went to shit because they took the survival horror aspect away from the game and they put a pure focus on just action.
Point.
They took what made the game and they turned it into something else. That's why it went to shit.
So
not because of online community.
Because they basically changed the genre. Which it was.
That was the case. Resident Evil 4 wouldn't have been the highest grossing Resident Evil game ever.
Well, okay.
That's when the action aspect came in. It was fresh. It was something different. But perfect example. After Resident Evil 5, that's when it plummeted. Because,
I'll bring it, and here's the point why. It brought up, again, online multiplayer. Because now you have either you get stuck with an AI partner that doesn't know how to do shit, or you have to be online with your buddy to play that second character. So again, online multiplayer functionality, whether it's in a group or a co-op online story mode, it has still killed the franchise because up until 4, you did not need another partner to play the game.
No, you didn't. But still, the point still remains. It was what the developer's decision was. And what they turned the game into wasn't what fans of the game wanted. Fans wanted the survival horror aspect. They didn't get survival horror. They got action nonstop like a Rambo movie. It was just pure action. From the moment you started the game to the moment you finished the game, it was nothing but action. There was no horror to it.
Now I have a question for both of you, as you've already gone through the game multiple times.
Which game?
for each game that you've talked about, I know you guys have played at least once or twice in your life. You, Zilla, being a huge Resident Evil fan, same thing with you, Jay.
Resident Evil forever.
You guys have even played, played as partners on the game.
He
right?
sucks.
So,
I'm awesome. What you talking about?
Yeah, but
bitch, I'm adorable.
But that's also why you have your brother Mike. You
best partner I could have ever asked for.
You two sometimes are at each other's throats, but when it comes to that game, you guys are almost in perfect sync, right? Now, my question
double S rankings, motherfucker.
Now, my question to both of you is,
that's online.
No, that's landline, bitch.
But here's the thing, though. My question to both of you: are the games themselves still fun? When do they stop being fun for you, or when did they stop being fun for you? Is it because purely of the online aspect, or was it another thing?
Honestly, for me, online did kill it for the longest time, because that's all I kept seeing was, oh, online this, online that, multiplayer this, multiplayer that. Okay, I don't care about that. What's the story? Show me stuff about the story.
Now that's also interesting, because you and I have kind of a similar debate when it comes to films. Only difference between that and video games nowadays is you actually control what's going on. That's the difference. Because every other time I ask you about a certain film franchise that I either don't care for or can't really stand anymore, where yours like, oh, why has it got to be about the story? Then the tables are turned. I think it's because you have control over what's going on the screen versus something like a big screen film where you don't have control. That changes that entire paradigm for you. Now, I've actually seen this conversation played out in an anime I watched, which is actually one of my favorites from last season, called Gamers, right? And it mostly focuses on a group of people. It's a story about gaming, otaku culture, and it's also a love story. Now, in one particular episode where they're all together for a gaming camp, right? One of the non-gamers, one of the girlfriends who is a non-gamer is trying to explain is trying to understand why her boyfriend and her friends like gaming as it is so much. And every point that you guys brought up was brought up in that conversation on both sides of the coin. Now, she may not completely understand because, once again, she's not a gamer. She never had any interest in it. But trying to understand why they like it, from their perspective, and that includes online multiplayer, that includes online transactions, that includes bad games that some people say are bad, and versus one that's a guilty pleasure that you just want to get through. Like it's bad, but you also know that they spent so much time making this game that you still want to see what happens next. It's a guilty pleasure.
Yes,
right?
Because as I would say, Resident Evil 7, good game, not Resident Evil. If you can get past the first half hour.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so because of nostalgia, we've also had the throwback systems, the Super NES Mini, the NES Mini, the PlayStation Mini, which is right now controversial because of the games that they chose to put on the platform.
Yes, but if you hack it correctly, you can put more and more games on it.
It's the same thing with the Nintendo
NES
systems.
And the NES classics.
Except I don't hear anybody complaining about the NES classics
because Nintendo did it right and put the games on it that people actually wanted.
Plus they own their IPs. PlayStation had to, the games that were originally on the first generation PlayStation, they had to sell their IPs for one reason or another. So you don't get like the original Crash Bandicoot. You don't get Spyro the Dragon. You don't get
remastered editions.
But you do get something like Final Fantasy VII and
Tekken 2,
Tekken 2,
Resident Evils 1 and 2.
Right. So, but that.
I know what other shitty games are on it.
But unfortunately, that was a bomb. And plus the price tag that they put on it. Now, this is a throwback system. They're expecting you to pay $100 for it. Now, the other systems were close to it, but less, just by a little bit of a margin. But you put those games in. My sister just got me a freaking Atari flashback for Christmas because she saw that I had a Super NES Mini, and I don't even remember the last time I played an Atari game, like an original Atari game, not a port on an Atari or anything like that. But something tells me I'm gonna plug that in, and we're gonna have some throwback gaming days. My little brother, he plays shooters like you wouldn't believe. He's a preteen. He loves shooters. He loves going online. He loves interacting with his friends. We also have to keep in mind that the generation after us, they're running into the same problems, but they're starting out with online gaming. We didn't start out with online gaming. We started out with just regular 1-player, 2-player.
Yeah.
Then when
landline co-op.
No, but before any of that was even possible, the days where you had to get a cartridge, not even a CD, cartridge. Keep that junk.
Oh, fuck that! We go back even further to a machine that you had to deposit a quarter in.
Well, you could, and they still have those. You can go to barcades; they still have those.
I know, I'm just saying, but you want to bring back nostalgia and throwback.
But it's just like every new generation is gonna. I mean, every generation of gaming, as long as gaming is still a thing, they're gonna have these same issues. But can you imagine how picky the next generation is gonna be? Because they're already growing up with the
virtual reality,
with the VR and everything. We had VR; it was just really bad. The closest that a lot of people had to VR was Virtual Boy, and that caused headaches.
And now you got PSVR.
And now you got that. You got the Oculus Rift. You got everybody's coming out with a VR system.
Except for Microsoft.
But it's just exactly what it is. It's a new trend. Every new trend, gamers have to follow. Even those who aren't gaming. Apple trying to get into the gaming market
by purchasing Sony.
Now that's the thing. They had tried before and failed horribly. There's a history of gaming systems that never saw the light of day because they were either too far ahead of their time or they were too far back. So no, it's the same. No, it's the same topic. What I'm saying is, like, you're complaining about online play. Decimating the story, right? You are on the opposite side of the spectrum, depending on what game he's talking about. Most of this conversation has been about shooting games. What about those who only depend on story alone? I don't know what the new Kingdom Hearts game is going to bring to the table, but we know that that's mostly story. There's there's never been
that we know of.
Yeah, exactly. As far as I know, as a longtime Kingdom Hearts fan, there has never been multiplayer, period.
Yeah, no, I know that. I've played the first two.
But then if you go to, say, a Mario game, and Mario's been in this game since the early 80s, there's been all types of multiplayer. I don't hear anybody complaining about Smash Bros.
I don't play Smash Bros.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is no bias. No bias. I don't hear anybody complaining about Smash Bros. They put a freaking piranha plant as a playable character. Yeah, people were like, oh, I want this character in here. I want this character in here. Blah, blah, blah. Controversy, blah, blah, blah. They came out and said, oh, we're not putting any non-gaming characters, no manga characters in this game. If you want manga characters, go play Jump Force, which I probably will play. Fighting games. You guys didn't bring up fighting games, how they do rankings. The only ones that you brought up were Dragon Ball games. Not Street Fighter, not Mortal Kombat, not anything else that came after it. You just brought up Dragon Ball games.
Because I wasn't talking about 2D arcade fighting style games. I was talking about story-driven games. Mortal Kombat didn't become story-driven until Mortal Kombat 9.
But you said games, man. Those count as games, especially now that everything pretty much has some sort of online mode.
Not everything.
So it's getting there. But the question still remains: are they fun? When do they stop being fun? Exactly when do you know when to draw the line? That's up to you.
Okay, I'll give you an example for me. I don't mind playing my Dokkan game
Well, that's another thing. Mobile games. We didn't even touch on
We
mobile
don't
games.
really play mobile games that often here.
Except for
Dokkan.
Dokkan.
Look, Dokkan. You don't have to do microtransactions for Dokkan to get further into the game. But certain games, like, I'll bring it up again, Call of Duty, now that you brought it up, Street Fighter, Tekken, the newer games, in order to progress the story, I hate to say it, Xenoverse. In order to progress that story, you have to purchase microtransactions.
Oh.
That is what kills the games for me.
And
With
go ahead.
Xenoverse, though, the story that we got in the game was the complete story.
Yes.
All the extra in the DLC was exactly just extra that they added on.
But in order to progress further, you have to purchase it.
But if you wanted it, remember, that content was completely optional.
That's
it wasn't
that's
part
true.
of the main content.
That's
I
true.
understand that, but
that's what
the story.
That's what made you want more. You
Yes.
knew that there was
Going to be more. In order to keep going into that story, you have to purchase the transactions. Unlike Dokkan. Dokkan, you can make your microtransactions, get better characters and stuff. Or you can get Dragon Stones throughout the game and do it that way. That doesn't cost you a dime. But my fellow Kaiju Maniacs,
We can definitely talk about this further.
for
but-
fucking hours and hours and hours. But we want to know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you click the subscribe and like button and hit those notifications, man, so we can smash.
Right.
This is Zilla Grimm,
Elder Tenchi.
And JJ Dogfire.
smashing out.
Peace.